Devin, good evening, and thank you very much for your time here on the Newsfeed Late Night. Why are Black Americans tonight breathing a sigh of relief?
We're breathing a sigh of relief because, for once, a police officer is not above the law, has been held accountable by the system of justice, a system of justice that we are told is colorblind, but we oftentimes see in the realities of how justice is distributed through this system that it is indeed not colorblind, and that it is a system that is informed by white supremacy and racism and systemic racism. But today the system did render a verdict that was the appropriate verdict, that was the right verdict, that was the justice that George Floyd's family and his community and our global community deserve. And this isn't just justice for Black people. This is justice for America. This is justice for all people who have been harmed by systems that don't serve us, including the criminal legal system here in the United States that's exported around the globe and disfranchises people in other places beyond the borders of the U.S. And so this is not just a victory for Black Americans. This is a victory for all Americans and all of those who believe in justice.
Could this be a shift in the dynamic, as you mentioned earlier on, that would say cops are not above the law? Or are we just going to see a situation where this is categorized as one bad apple when the rest of the system is okay?
Well, the fact of the matter is that oftentimes the systems here in the United States are not in alignment with the actual citizenry. And so many of us, white and Black alike, do not debate the fact that law enforcement engages in egregious activity and engages in brutality and abuse among Black people and people of color and immigrants and people who are othered under the system of white supremacy. And so it's not a debate for the average citizen with common sense to see that there is a complete difference between how law enforcement engages Black people and how law enforcement engages white people. That's as plain as day. And so now it's time for these systems to recognize that the citizenry, which empowers these systems, is expecting for it to catch up with the mindset of where most of us are here in America, but particularly where most of us in Black America are, which is clear that far too often law enforcement is held to a different standard and is able to waste Black life on the streets. And that's our greatest resource in this country. And so I do believe that this will be a moment to show prosecutors across the country that you can successfully prosecute law enforcement, but that the threshold shouldn't have to be a video of almost 9 minutes of seeing someone die on our city streets, that there are entities and videos and experiences and situations that are across the country. There was a young man, 13 years old, killed in Chicago. Those police officers need the same justice that the police officer Derek Chauvin saw in this trial. Here in the Atlanta area, I was just at a press conference today for a Black man, Matthew Williams. His family was holding a press conference because he was shot in his own home by local police here in the Atlanta area. There is still work to be done. Dante Wright. So there is still justice, but what this shows is for those who are responsible for securing justice on behalf of all of us, that this is something that is tangible and that you can successfully prosecute law enforcement when they overstep the line and brutalize the lives of Black people.
Many young law students, Black, don't believe that the system actually works. Does this verdict in any way change or work towards changing that sentiment?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, we recognize that this is a fluke for the system, but what it does empower and embolden is that in this fluke in the system, we can see all the cracks in the system and reimagine and build new systems of accountability and justice. So those of us who are still demanding for the defunding of police and the reallocation of resources in our communities to address the conditions that cause for our communities to sometimes be unsafe and underfunded and under-resourced, we will still continue to say to defund the police. Those of us who want to see reimagined court systems and systems of accountability and justice that actually center the needs of victims and that victims aren't just synonymous with being white will continue to proclaim that we must reimagine the criminal legal system. So this in by no means legitimizes our current criminal legal system. What it does show is that we need to be real about the system that we're under and why did it take so long? How many police officers committed this or more egregious activities that are still on our streets? We know them. We've seen them. They're patrolling our streets today. And so while this is a great celebration of justice for the family of George Floyd in the Minneapolis community and Black people across the country and the world, there's still work to be done tomorrow because there are so many families like the Williams family that I was with today earlier who are still mourning the loss of their children. There's so much investment that's made into a child emotionally, physically, spiritually, and to have them snuffed out no matter how old they are, that's a heartbreak that no one should have to bear, particularly snuffed out and wasted by law enforcement, by your own tax dollars. And that is still the reality for Black Americans in far too many places in this country.
Devin Barrington Ward, appreciate your time, Managing Director of the Black Futurist Group and former Georgia State Senate candidate.